Alright, so for one of my classes in college, we were tasked with building a lighter-than-air vehicle, or LTA, and the theme we had to stick with was The Princess Bride. So we went with a book with a boat coming out of it, almost like a pop-up book. And here we have our lift fans. We've got one on the other side too, which of course provide lift. And they're counter-rotating so that they don't cause it to just turn horribly. We also have a servo here to allow them to rotate. So that'll essentially allow the LTA to turn in place, almost like a tank. One will go forward, the other will go back. Back here we have the rudder, which, in all honesty, we probably won't really use. We just had to include it because we said we would in our initial design review. But really this will be used for backups in case the servos fail. Although honestly, if the servos fail, it's probably a catastrophic failure, and our craft is coming down anyways. Here we've got the thrust propeller, which will allow us to go forward. And then we kind of have these pages as pseudo ducts for the fans. And then here we have the boat with kind of these wood panels that we stained. And inside we have all the circuitries, the battery, the circuit board, and the receiver down in there. It's kind of a rat's nest of wires, so I won't go through it all because it gets confusing. And then we have this string here, which we're going to attach to this large weather balloon to make it, well, not actually lighter than air, but a lot lighter. The key thing is we have to have the balloon attached. But there is our LTA, the inconceivable. So, switching to after the fact most of our time. Here is our flight test, which we will generally check to make sure our craft worked. We're going to check lift fan servos, thrust propeller, and rudder. In that previous test, the thrust propeller didn't work, so we just reset the system and then it worked. But it's both to check to make sure our craft works, and to gain practice flying it for the obstacle course, which I'll get to in a sec. Now, right here is our previous pilot's attempt at flying it. I just wanted to throw this in here to show her, well, lack of ability at flying it, to show why I was switched to pilot. But a bit of backstory on that. So, during our design review, when we submitted the design for our craft, we were supposed to have a pilot selected, but we wanted to do flight tests with this mini RC quadcopter I have to see who was the best pilot. Point is, we didn't get a pilot selected, so they assigned a pilot for us. And, well, she wasn't a very good pilot. She was able to balance out the craft so it wouldn't be spinning horribly when you were flying it. But when she actually tried to actually fly it, she just couldn't really control it. So she got sick of it and asked if anyone else wanted to give it a shot. And I was like, I'll try flying it, because it sounded cool. And it turns out that I just have a natural ability at flying it. So I was switched to pilot. Which means that since this is the actual obstacle course itself, this is the actual challenge, I'm not the one recording because I'm flying the craft. So special thanks to my teammate Eric, who did the video for this. So thanks, Eric. Yeah, but so I was switched to pilot 2 days before the competition, because that's when we finally did our flight tests. Which meant that was a fun amount of stress, because I really only got 20 minutes to practice with it. And it doesn't have the most intuitive controls. I mean, well, the controls on the controller, the remote control, they're pretty basic, they're not complicated. But the thrust propeller doesn't have a balancing fan, it's not counter-rotated, which means that, due to Newton's third law, with every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. When the thrust propeller turns on, the craft spins, so I have to use the lift fan servos to balance it out, which is difficult. Plus, the lift fan servos are inverted, so moving the joystick right causes the craft to go left, so it's kind of confusing and messes with my brain a little bit. We were supposed to use the rudder to balance out the thrust propeller, but we didn't ever have enough time to balance it out to adjust it appropriately, so we weren't able to do that. So it was just kind of a convoluted control system, a little confusing, but I dealt with it. I just mentioned that, so if you're ever wondering when I'm bouncing around, as I do here, which we'll see in a sec, that is why I'm bouncing around so much. It's not that I completely suck at flying. But as for the obstacle course itself, the previous 2 obstacles you saw me doing, and those were 2 separate obstacles, were to land on these platforms, which, because this is Princess Bride themed, is the Cliffs of Insanity. But pretty much you just have to land on the platform and stay there for 5 seconds, which means don't land there and bounce off like I did the first time. But But you have to do that for one, and you have to do that for a higher one, and the higher one is more difficult. I'm guessing because you can't see it as well. The angle's weird. But here is then that was the second or third obstacle, depending on how you look at it, which was just to fly through that tube. Those flame things you saw at the beginning were fans blowing air up, which you had to counteract. At the end, there were fans blowing air down, had to counteract those. And the cardboard cutouts, which were going something neutral size, if you saw them from the other side, you had to avoid those. Yeah. I thought it was going to be easy, but as you saw, I was kind of just flailing around there. Yeah. And this then is the last obstacle, which is the Max's Miracle Hut. The previous one being the Fire Swamp, of course. Which means you just have to hover in here for 15 seconds. Which I thought was going to be difficult. As you saw, I kind of failed the first time. But the second time, once I got in there, I was just able to hover, as you can see. So, pretty proud of myself for that. And you may have also noticed I've had a few jump cuts in here. I don't have any more, but those are generally when I've failed for like a minute. So, I don't want to make a 12-minute video, and I don't think you guys really want to watch a 12-minute video. So, I cut out periods of my, like, 30 to minute-and-a-half failure to kind of shave time. Although, between the Fire Swamp and Max's Miracle Hut, that was just me flying over there, but I cut that out again. Keep it concise. So that was my goal. But that was the last obstacle, so now I just have to land back on the starting platform, which was actually kind of difficult. And you see me going up, which you may think, why am I going back up? And looking back on it, I think that same thing. But when I was flying it, it made sense to me. And then one last thing I forgot to mention is the craft does have landing gear, as you can probably see underneath it. We've got 4 main landing gear underneath the boat, and 2 kind of wider landing gear at the ends of the pages, which work pretty well. Although one of them does break off here, and you can see I'm bouncing. But nevertheless, hope you enjoyed it, and see ya.